Welcome back to GaleForceWins Season 3.
GaleForceWins podcast is proudly sponsored by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association. The NLCA provides unparalleled opportunities for its members through industry education, construction information, government advocacy, and networking events. The NLCA is building Newfoundland and Labrador. For more information, visit nlca.ca. Welcome back to GaleForceWins. We have a very, I wouldn't call it special, but maybe different, I guess, is definite for sure, and different in how this meeting came to be. I actually posted a picture on my social media of my version of a stand-up desk using two ottomans, actually three ottomans, two of which have a leopard skin kind of design on them. My wife, after seeing it on Facebook, wasn't very happy that I did it. My 15-year-old saw it on Instagram, and he's like, "Dad, take that down." And I'll tell you this, one of the things that you'll find about us at GaleForceWins, authenticity. You know, was it a proper business post? Maybe not, but I can tell you this, I felt great standing up. But anyway, the reason that we're here having this conversation today is that I've been in business development for 35 years. I'm getting 40, 50 people reach out to me a week since we started this podcast. That's a lot for anyone in business development. This gentleman right here, Justin, reached out to me and he broke through the clutter and got my attention. Why don't you just tell us a little bit, first of all, about that, and then I'll get you both to introduce yourselves.
Sure. To be honest, I saw the solution, and that's what I loved. I loved that it was an outside-the-box solution to achieve the same principle, sit to stand. Ergonomics is, a big thing for me, has been for the last 10 years. So when I saw the solution, I figured I'd reach out and maybe there was something we could do to give you a little bit more stability for that laptop than the three ottomans.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you have a solution?
Sure. My name is Justin Horvath. I work with Chandler Sales. I've been doing commercial furniture now for the last 12 years, and ergonomics has played a big role in that for definitely the last 10 years. So like I said, when we saw the solution that you had, figured we'd reach out. We represent Herman Miller and Knoll, one of the largest, actually the largest commercial manufacturer of furniture in the world. So I figured we'd have a solution for you.
Well, I said to you, I really like that solution. I really like the way you approached it. And I said, I got to sit and chat with you. So you agreed, but you brought someone along. So Terry, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself.
Well, thanks. My name's Terry Hines, and I'm the division manager for the furniture division of Chandler Sales. And we're a division of J.D. Irving Limited, so we have 95 sister companies. Kent Building Supplies is recognizable, Irving Shipbuilding, Atlas Truss, Shamrock Truss. There's quite a few different companies that are under our umbrella.
Well, and it's funny, as we were talking before recording, I had no idea that the Irving family owned this company. But it's interesting because GaleForceWins has sailed on several of the ships. We were on, Harry the Wolf down in the Turks and Caicos. And there's a couple of others we've been on that have escaped me now. But so we're very supportive of what the Canadian Navy is doing. And we're impressed with what Irving has been doing building those ships. But anyway, you're all the way from Martok, Nova Scotia, you say, right?
I am. I come over every couple months, see the guys. We have Justin and another fellow named Peter Murphy. We have some sales support over here, a lady named Mel Tucker, and Bobby Bishop's our delivery guy. So a couple years ago, we were looking at the St. John Market, and we have a brand new branch in Mount Pearl. So we decided that we'd throw furniture into the ring. So first off, I went out and had to recruit a seasoned veteran, and that was Peter, and then it took me a little bit to get Justin. I think he mentioned to me I was the best he'd met at Hard No. How many times did I have to beat on your door?
I think it was round 3 that I made a change in my decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just had to target somebody experienced because I live in Dartmouth. We have branches in St. John, New Brunswick, Moncton, Sydney, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, and Grand Falls, Windsor.
Fantastic. Terry, so you're the division manager. Tell me a little bit about your journey. How does someone like yourself, where did you start, and how do you end up being a division manager?
It's a long story, but when I was in high school, my father was a furniture salesman. And one summer, I think it was first year university, I needed a summer job. So I went to see his boss, the owner of the furniture store, and he gave me a job on the delivery truck. So did that for a couple of years when I wasn't playing basketball or going to school. And the second winter was somebody left in sales right before Christmas. And back in the day, Christmas was the big season for a furniture store, and waterbeds had just come out. So interestingly enough, I made about $5,000 commission in 3 weeks selling waterbeds.
How old were you at this point?
21 maybe.
Yeah.
And so then I went through college, graduated, applied for a job with the government as an economist, got the job, got my offer, which was $20,000 less than I was already making in furniture sales. So I decided to stay.
Yeah.
And long story short, the owner of the store's wife got cancer. I worked my way up to sales manager and made him an offer to give me shares in lieu of pay so I could buy him out. So after 5 years, I had enough equity to go to the bank, buy him out. So then I owned the store for 16 years. And then Sunday shopping came along.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already there 6 days a week. I had a young family. So I thought, you know what? Time to move on. So then I sold that, found a buyer, which was lucky, and went into the insurance business for 5 years. Felt greasy and slimy every day when I went home, so I sold that business, and then I started at Chandler as a sales guy. 2 years ago, my boss quit, and so the general manager of the company said, well, why don't you apply for the job? I said, I don't want the job. So it's kind of like Justin. It was like 4 or 5 times later, I finally said, okay. And I love it. I got to build a team, handpick all the individuals around the Maritimes. And now I think we're probably the second largest provider in Atlantic Canada of commercial furniture.
It's amazing. Terry, it's interesting listening to your journey. It's almost like you didn't necessarily want leadership, but leadership kind of followed you and tapped you on the shoulder. Is that what?
Well, I wanted to own the furniture store until after I bought it. Then the headaches of, $1 million line of credit, end of the month, payroll, you kind of inherit all that stuff. So making sure that you've got your ducks in a row is very important unless you want to lose everything. Now I love this job because somebody else paid the bills.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is bag and wine, and can I hire a couple more people?
Just we'll get over to you in a second, Justin. Just to explore that a little more. So you've come through this entrepreneurial journey, and then you just don't want to sit back with your feet up, obviously.
Well, there's another part to the story. I
Yep.
retired at 44.
Mm-hmm.
Played 6 months of golf. My wife was driving me crazy with honeydew lists, and so I decided I'd go into real estate. So I bought a textile mill, half of a textile mill. And we were developing that into, it was, I want to say 80,000 square feet, mixed retail commercial, and promptly lost $2.5 million in 2 years.
Wow.
So then I thought, probably should go back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so retirement was a thing in the past.
Yeah. Should have built a duplex.
Well, I know you guys are pressed for time, but there's so much that we could explore based on your journey. But I'm going to turn it over to Justin now. Justin, talk a little bit about, maybe your high school days and then, your vision for where you thought you would be and maybe where you are, or maybe this is exactly where you thought you were going to be when you were 10.
No, I wanted to be a doctor.
Did you? Me too.
Yeah, I wanted to be a doctor when I was young. Actually, throughout high school, I still wanted to be a doctor. But then I realized that I don't like the gross things. So, I wasn't going to be a doctor. And it was, sales kind of found me. I was young. I needed a part-time job in order to pay for my insurance so I could drive. And I took a job at Staples. in sales, and that was the start of and it just came natural to me.
Yeah.
So I started excelling at Staples in terms of what they were selling, their extended warranties, and it was from there that I was offered an opportunity to transition into a more commercial sales, business to business, with the company 3D Datacom, and I sold smartboards to teachers, and it was a fantastic journey for a while. And after that, I took a job with a competitor that sold a competing product with the smartboards, but they just so happened to not sell any other technology products, and everything else they sold was furniture. So the furniture industry found me about 12 years ago, and I fell in love with it. It was fun, and ever since then, I've been selling commercial furniture, to business, government. Ergonomics has been a big part of it. But yeah, that's my journey through the business development and how I became here with Terry.
So when you were in school, say high school, grade school, were you a quiet young person, or were you?
I'm definitely an introvert outside of work.
Interesting.
And inside of work, I'm more of an extrovert. So
Yeah.
it's weird how that works. But
It is weird, but it's funny, when I got into sales 35 years ago, I thought my mother, she was going to die, because she said to me, she says, sales? Like,
it's funny, my mother said the same thing.
well, I'm a very quiet person. I love ice hockey, and I'll give you an example. In a dressing room, I'm not the guy that's got all the funny jokes. There's other people that have all that. I'm usually very quiet. So, and there was a time when I was a teenager where I was pretty unsure of myself. And then when I got into sales, I think what for me happened was I got passionate about video, and then I became a radio salesperson. And when you're passionate about a product, you can really speak about it, right?
Yep.
So I think knowing what you just told us about your journey, you're passionate about the businesses that you built and all that. I don't think it matters if you're an introvert.
Agreed.
You certainly got to have some social skills to be able to connect with people.
Absolutely.
Right? What are your thoughts, Terry, on that? Because you've
Just have
been
to be-
hiring people for years, right?
You have to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I guess you have to show people that that what you say is what you're selling. And once you've gained that trust and get a bit of a reputation, then it makes it a lot easier. You a Leafs fan?
This is a hard question to answer. You're going to laugh at this. Grew up as a Habs fan. Then when the St. John's Maple Leafs came, I started to switch over to the Toronto Maple Leafs. No Habs fan does that. I love both the Habs and the Maple Leafs, and I really like where the Maple Leafs are going. But anyway, you're a Maple Leafs fan, I take it, are you?
No.
Okay.
But I'm like you. I'm a Habs fan, but I know the Habs aren't going to do anything in the near future. So I'm following the Leafs,
Yeah.
but they just have some players that I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But interesting.
So, back to you, Justin. So you're in this business now, and it seems like you really are enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting, what I find, and I've worked in the digital marketing realm for a long time. I was the first digital marketing guy in St. John's for the Telegram in 1999. Actually, is when I started selling. 100% commission, 100% digital advertising, selling leaderboards and big boxes, they were called, on the telegram.com. That was quite a leap for me, and financially it wasn't a great move, but it gave me an enormous amount of satisfaction, because it was something that was really interesting. What I love about you is that you seem extremely active in the digital realm. Tell us a little bit about how the business has changed in the last, you say you're in business 12, 13 years now?
13 years.
13
well, 12 years with the commercial furniture.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about how you approach things digitally.
Well, to be fair, at first there was zero digital presence whatsoever in the furniture side of things.
Yeah.
But then and my background was with technology. So I was selling smart boards, so giant touch screens. And I was very passionate about selling them. That's one of the reasons why I did very well with them. And it was the same reason why I was so passionate about ergonomics. So when I made the transition from selling touch screens, and actually during the technology sales, one of the biggest problems we would outfit a lot of boardrooms. and we would put the giant screens up on the wall. We would put the video conferencing gear in, and then when it came to tying it into the actual furniture that was in the room, there was always that huge disconnect. There was a huge disconnect between, the connections that were needed for the table versus the generic old, connections that were always there. So that was kind of my first introduction to the two worlds combining together. And when I switched into the commercial furniture, it was a big advantage in being able to kind of future-proof some of these installs when it came to the boardroom tables, the cabling, tying it into the video conferencing, down to the colors that should be used in rooms so that, it complemented video conferencing at the time. So the two played together well, but there was very little digital presence, say, from LinkedIn or any of those when it came to the furniture world. Very little. The audio video world had a big presence. It's actually one of the reasons why I created my LinkedIn account, probably 15 years ago. So it's because of that I kind of transitioned back towards LinkedIn when we were starting our business development and trying to find the right people to outreach. And, the construction world, which is big for us, they have a big presence on LinkedIn. So that's when I started, trying to expand my group on LinkedIn. And I ran across GaleForceWins probably, about a year or so ago. Started following you guys. And then when I saw your post, like I said, I felt inclined to reach out.
Well, it's funny, Terry, you and I were a little older than Justin and Harry. I think there's I've been in sales for 35 years, and there's always the debate between, connecting online versus a handshake. And I tell you, a handshake is still incredibly important. Being able to sit here with you and hear your story is important. But I think maintaining a relationship, starting a relationship on LinkedIn or any other digital platform actually works.
It does.
So I think for anyone out there watching this, there's a lot of experience here. And I think we're morphing into a world where you've got the digital and the in-person stuff all happening. But I agree with you on LinkedIn. For some reason, well, not for some reason, I think if you're in business development, LinkedIn makes sense. And I've been at it. I don't know how old LinkedIn is. You say it's 15 years old?
I think it was probably about 2007, 2008 when I first signed up.
Well, what I love about LinkedIn, it's purely business focused. I'm not interested in the birthdays and all that stuff. It's all about business. And that's when you're in business is interesting, right?
Absolutely.
And I can tell you both, you both have made furniture interesting to me. And I think about your description, you guys are looking at my very messy studio here. I, with no knowledge of ergonomics, struggle to maintain what I got on the go. And this is a small room, but I think about, I've been in publicly traded companies and you get a boardroom and you start adding soundboards and where do the cables go? And there's times when the boardroom table is just a tangle. You can't even lay your coffee down on it,
Well, the focus is certainly changing in ergonomics, to be fair. I mean, I always use the old adage that it's like when you go buy your mattress. People have a different perception there. People will go buy a mattress and they don't rush out and buy the cheapest mattress they can find. They spend time, they sit in it or they lay down on it, they look at it and they say, you know what, I can be in that for 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one I can be in for 8 hours a night. And then they go to the office and they're like, I can sit on a milk crate. I'm only in it for 8 hours a day. So being able to, change people's mindset that, no, you're in that for 8 hours a day, that should fit you. It should be complementing your body. So that's why I kind of took up the whole ergonomic approach when it came to business. And I'm quite passionate about it. So,
well, it's important. I mean, I think about some of the office environments that I've worked in. And frankly, what I have here in my office myself that I set up is much more comfortable than anything that I've ever had. And I've worked in multiple companies, publicly traded companies. But this is the setup that I want, and I could never get where I worked. So I think some of the managers out there probably should think a little better and more about the offerings that you have. Terry, thanks for coming to Newfoundland. You're here once a month. Once a month?
Once every month or two.
Perfect. So if you can, talk a little bit about, what's on the horizon for the company. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we have a very aggressive goal this year to double in size.
Double.
So
Wow.
last December we had 12 employees in our division, and today we have 24. So we're going through a lot of growth. We're expanding our product lines. We're expanding into areas in Atlantic Canada where we didn't have a presence. I think we have it fully covered now. The next probably place would be Sydney. We have a small branch in Sydney, and we don't have a furniture presence there. We do get some business there because a lot of the companies that are in Sydney are in Dartmouth. But yeah, so it's been exciting, but it's been a bit scary.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Well, the sales have grown,
Yeah.
so now we have to cover it off.
Yes.
So, in December, I'd lay awake in bed at night and think, okay, we sold it all. How are we going to get it all installed?
Yeah.
So, and there's been a lot of challenges with COVID and supply chain.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say something. It's funny in my experience, when I worked in the newspaper business, the challenge I had was my role ended up being laying people off. So when you're contracting, that is very stressful. It's not a lot of fun. Turn back to this podcast where things are literally on bust. So I understand what you're saying. I find that, I guess we'll call it the stress, the way laying awake at night, trying to figure out how you're going to deliver on what you've sold is always a challenge. And I find that actually it's been a little bit harder than dealing with the downturn, to be honest with you.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, you both have, I've really enjoyed this, and I love the fact that you reached out to me, Justin. Talk a little bit about where you see yourself going in the next few years, and then we'll say goodbye to everyone.
Well, I mean, when are you retiring?
I don't know. It didn't work out well last time, so I'm going to see this through. So, 7 years, 8 years, maybe.
Well, I'm looking forward to building the business over here. So that's, since I made the change over to Chandler in October, I'm very enthusiastic about where things are headed. There's a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of work to be done, and a lot of business development to do. And
he's the right guy to do it.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, folks, I can tell you this, that, when you get a lot of things into your inbox in a run of a week, if something really stands out, and the reason his stood out was it was very personal. It may have been just I think it might have only been 2 sentences, but it just burst through all the noise. And you know what, Justin, I think you've got a bright future ahead of you. I really appreciate what you did to reach out to me. And the last piece of advice I'll give everyone, don't be afraid to post something on LinkedIn that, maybe a little questionable. A leopard skin 3-tier ottoman as a stand-up desk has led me to reach out and talk to these 2 fine gentlemen. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we've got a lot more inspiration coming. Thanks.
Thanks, Gerry.
Thank you for tuning in to GaleForceWins. That's GaleForceWins, WINS.com.